You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Hey everybody, Dave here. Have you ever wondered where your personal information is lurking online? Like many of you, I was concerned about my data being sold by data brokers. So I decided to try Delete Me. I have to say, Delete Me is a game changer. Within days of signing up, they started removing my personal information from hundreds of data brokers. I finally have peace of mind knowing my data privacy is protected. Delete Me's team does all the work for you with detailed reports, so you know exactly what's been done. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and use promo code N2K at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/N2K and enter code N2K at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/N2K, code N2K. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CyberWire's Research Saturday. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is our weekly conversation with researchers and analysts tracking down the threats and vulnerabilities, solving some of the hard problems, and protecting ourselves in a rapidly evolving cyberspace. Thanks for joining us.
Phishing emails are a very common way to distribute malware. So the phishing emails, pretending to be a purchase order, and then the attachment is not actually the purchase order. And in this case, it's not even a file type that you would really expect for a purchase order. It's a 7-zip file, which contains an ISO file, which is like a disk image. But they sort of don't count on people looking that closely into the attachments.
That's Jonathan Tanner, Senior Security Researcher at Barracuda. The research we're discussing today is titled Stealthy Phishing Attack Uses Advanced Info Stealer for Data Exfiltration. Right. And as the research points out, there are some of those telltale grammar errors in the email as well.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's dig into those payloads then, because that's really where things get interesting here. As you said, this is a 7Z file, but there's many layers that you outline here in the research as to what goes on here. Can you walk us through that?
Yes. So the 7Z, which is also, zip files are commonly used as well, but basic protections sometimes will block outright certain file types. So the 7Z itself is kind of an evasion as well, because it's a lesser used and lesser known archive format that is still widely enough supported. So they chose the 7Z file, and then inside is as I mentioned, an ISO file, which is a disk image, often used for like CDs or DVDs. But that in itself is just another sort of archive container. So then once that is executed, and here's another aspect with these is, when you open it up on Windows, it'll pop up things trying to help you open these files pretty easily. So, you click on the file, then it's like, oh, okay, do you want to open the ISO file inside? Then it'll open that up, and then it takes you to an HTA file, which is it's HTML, but it's designed to run more in Microsoft Word, and it offers a lot more capabilities as far as interacting with the host operating system, because most browsers these days are sandboxed from being able to access as much on the host. So the HTA file allows them to write in sort of a pretty easy language that they can understand, but then execute it in a more privileged software space.
I see. And so once that HTA file gets executed, where do we go next?
So then that downloads a JavaScript file, which is heavily obfuscated, very common. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a non-obfuscated JavaScript file from, as far as malware goes.
Yeah.
And then that will download a PowerShell script, because even JavaScript doesn't always have the same privileges to the host operating system. But PowerShell can do pretty much anything in the user space that's executing it that the user can do. So then the PowerShell script will go and download a zip file, and that contains the Python software itself, as well as the Python script that is the malware payload. Because Windows doesn't have Python installed by default, so they have to package up the Python software to actually run the script. And that itself is also obfuscated and needs to be decoded, and then it's finally run.
And so to the user, is all of this happening behind the scenes, or are they seeing anything that would indicate that something has gone awry?
I'm not actually 100% sure on that. I think at most the PowerShell would quickly pop up like a MS-DOS prompt or a terminal prompt, but it's possible that it just runs behind the scenes as well. And I mean, if it is popping up a prompt, it's going to be very quick, just the amount of time it takes to execute that file. And then once it gets to the Python file, unless they have something specifically, a UI set up, which they wouldn't, that's all going to run behind the scenes.
One of the things that caught my eye in the research here is you note that the Python file sleeps for 3 seconds. Walk me through that. Why does it choose to do that?
I think the sleeping for 3 seconds is to allow the process to finish running before killing it. Because it says after the 3 seconds, it then kills the Python process. And then if it's still running, and then deletes all the files. So that is probably to ensure that if something hangs within the software, it's not going to set off any alarms on the user side that, oh no, things are slowing down, or I got some errors. So they want to ensure that everything cleans itself up afterwards, and there isn't as many traces of the actual execution.
I see. And so what is it that they're after here once they get into the system?
They're actually after quite a bit, which was part of the interesting details. Like info stealers most commonly are after passwords, saved passwords from your browsers, which this does go after. And then there's a subtype of info stealer called a banker, which will go after any sort of banking information, and then they will dig a little deeper and they'll look for like crypto wallets. So this is also going after that information as well. But what kind of is more unique about this sample is it is also going through the user's file system looking for PDF files, and then it'll actually exfiltrate those as well. And send those off. It zips them up and then sends them to a specific email address. Each type of information is also sent to a different email address at the same domain. So they're kind of keeping track of what type of information is being sent by
they're
segregating it.
Staying organized on their end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We'll be right back. And now, a word from our sponsor, Cortex. Security teams face a barrage of more security tools create more complexity, more devices need protection, more specialized focus areas create more silos. The security landscape is changing fast. How can security operations transform to meet current threats? Cortex by Palo Alto Networks consolidates SecOps tools into an integrated platform and helps organizations stop threats at scale with AI, automation, and analytics. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com/Cortex. Imagine this. Your primary identity provider goes down, whether it's a cloud outage, network issue, or even a cyber attack. Suddenly, your business grinds to a halt. But what if it didn't have to? Meet Identity Continuity from Strata, the game-changing solution that keeps your business running smoothly no matter what. Whether your cloud IDP crashes or your on-prem system faces a hiccup, Identity Continuity seamlessly shifts authentication to a secondary or even tertiary IDP, automatically and without disruption. Powered by the Mavericks Identity Orchestration Platform, Identity Continuity uses smart health checks to monitor your IDP's availability and instantly activates failover strategies tailored to your needs. When the coast is clear, it's a seamless switch back. No more downtime, no lost revenue, no frustrated customers. Just continuous, secure access to your critical applications every single time. Protect your business from the high costs of IDP outages. With Identity Continuity from Strata, downtime is a thing of the past. Learn more at strata.io. Keep your business moving even when the unexpected happens. That's strata.io. Any sense for why they're going after seemingly random PDF files, or is it just while we're in here, let's grab everything we can?
I think that also has to do kind of with the stealing sensitive data and, banking, the banker aspects in that, if you log into your online bank account and then download a bank statement, that could have your account number or other sensitive information. And then if you save that as a PDF, it'll just be sitting on your file system. You may not think to delete it later. So I believe they're going after that sort of information. Another thing that would have sensitive information is, tax statements. You fill out your taxes every year, download a PDF for your records. That's going to have your social security number, which is, very sensitive data that is traded on dark marketplaces sometimes as well. So they're just basically going after as much information as possible, and some of it can be used to try to compromise your accounts directly or your bank or steal money, and then some of it can be sold or traded on marketplaces.
Is the sense here that they're after kind of a quick hit, that they want to get in, grab what they want, and then get out without leaving much of a trail behind?
Yes, definitely. Because there's no sort of residual processes, to stick around and try to steal data later. So the deleting everything, especially, is trying to not leave a trace on your system, at least file-wise. I'm sure there'll be plenty of indicators, if it touches the registry or executions, but at least not leaving the files that were used in the infection process.
Right. And is this the kind of thing that a typical antivirus system would detect, or is it stealthier than that?
It depends. The thing with typical antivirus is they're all based, basically it's called like on signatures. They look for specific strings. Like it could be in this, if they're looking for, like Python, it would be more of text because Python is a scripting language, but most, like executable malware, it's like binary encoded strings that they're trying to find. And when they see malware, they'll create new rules to look for, the malware that they've seen. And they try to make it general enough to block as many possibilities of what they've seen, but also specific enough that it doesn't block anything that it shouldn't. So the traditional antivirus is very reactive. It requires the analysts to create these rules to detect it, and that is what most users have. I mean, I'm sure even in a lot of companies, there are more advanced endpoint solutions out there that will look deeper into files, but there's not. I don't know that there's a market for that for end users, and even within business, it's not as widely used as it should be.
Do you have any sense for how widespread this is, or how extensive an operation this might be?
So for this particular sample, we've seen 40,000 hits so far. 50 of our customers have escalated the attack through our feedback.
Interesting.
So it's definitely getting a lot. But that's also for this specific one. They could change things up, to create different file hashes, change up the payload a little bit, and that could result in, something that has to be detected separately, but is the same thing ultimately, which is very common. That's another way that. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
That is another way that attackers will try to evade antivirus. Is trying to vary at least the initial payload as much as possible. It may end up downloading the exact same Python script at the end, but a lot of protections, especially on the email end, are maybe looking at the file hash. So if they vary the file hash and send it out to fewer customers, it can be a lot stealthier that way.
How would you rate the sophistication of this? Or do these folks seem to know what they're doing here?
Yeah, it definitely is somewhat sophisticated. It's also, going for a very wide range of information, which, can have its pros and cons. I mean, the more data that's getting sent out can also lead to, better chance of it getting detected, say by an intrusion detection system. But it also exposes a lot more of, a user's sensitive data.
Right.
And I suppose on the business end, they also could be looking for, maybe customer PII or even, confidential documents. That is another thing that could be with the exfiltrating the PDFs that could be getting compromised.
So what are your recommendations then? How should folks best protect themselves here?
I mean, obviously, having security solutions is one of the typical recommendations, and it is a good one. But there's also, no security solution is going to be 100% effective at blocking everything. So users, should sort of have some vigilance in their own day-to-day of like looking at emails. There were, several indicators on this one that, you mentioned the language and, spelling errors and grammar errors. That's something that is often an indicator that something might be off, because that's, not super common in legitimate emails, or at least not the same sort that you might see in phishing attacks. Another thing is, suspicious file extensions, paying attention to them, and sort of, every step of the way, it does require, several user interactions to actually get these payloads to run. So each one of those is an opportunity for a user to go, hey, should I really be executing this? What is this actually? And then there's also context. Is this person sending me this purchase order actually someone that I do business with that I would be expecting a purchase order from? If not, then that should be a huge red flag right there.
Our thanks to Jonathan Tanner from Barracuda for joining us. The research is titled Stealthy Phishing Attack Uses Advanced Info Stealer for Data Exfiltration. We'll have a link in the show notes. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like our show, please share a rating and review in your favorite podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K Cyberwire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your team smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. We're mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester. Our executive producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Brandon Karp. Simone Petrella is our president. Peter Kilby is our publisher. And I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next time.